Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host, coming to you from a slightly soggy Laramie, Wyoming. And yeah, it's been raining here. There's some puddles around, still sprinkling a little bit. I don't know if there's another storm coming back through. We're on our way to Ohio with a load we picked up this morning in Springville, Utah. So today is August 19th. On this day in 1812, major naval battle between the USS Constitution and the HMS Guerre during the War of 1812. And the CO of the Constitution that day was Captain Isaac Hull. The Constitution wins that battle. It's a big deal. But in that battle, the British shot was seen by the crew of the Constitution bouncing off the side of the ship. And that's how she got her nickname of Old Ironsides. And she is the longest in commission naval vessel in the world. There's, I guess, a British ship. I don't know the name of it because it doesn't really matter. It was British. It is older than the Constitution, but it's sitting in a dry dock. The Constitution is in water in Boston. It's still crewed by Navy personnel. And just kind of an aside, that's a special duty assignment that people are handpicked for in the Navy, and they go through training on the history of the ship and how to wear the traditional, way back then, uniforms. And she was also involved in the Barbary pirate actions against the Barbary pirates over in North Africa, Tripoli in particular. At that time, which was like 1803 time frame, she was commanded by Edward Preble, another famous naval officer. And the Barbary pirates signed a surrender on Constitution back then. So she's been around for a long time. She was originally outfitted as a 44-gun frigate, but when she was out to sea expecting combat, she usually would have around 50 guns, 450 crew members, and they were packed pretty tight because it's not that big of a ship. But everything was done manually. So anyway, happy anniversary on that battle to Old Ironsides. Okay, so I wanted to talk about service failure. And I'm going to talk about service failure in a couple of different contexts. The first is I'm going to talk about service failure when the people whose job it is to serve the drivers fail. And in particular, I'm talking about the Salt Lake City trailer shop. I've had problems in Salt Lake City before with trailers, but over the past week, I have taken trailers into the Salt Lake terminal 4 different times for problems with the ABS light or the ABS monitoring system. And one of those trailers I had to take in twice. So let me tell you what happened. I went out there last weekend, and I had a delivery out in Salt Lake City. And after I made it, I took the trailer, and I'm like, hey, this thing's got issues with the ABS system. So they're like, okay, so I dropped that trailer. And then I go to the shop, and I'm like, hey, I need a new trailer. Well, first of all, no one answered the phone in the trailer shop at all. I learned last night that I actually need to talk to this gal in the tractor shop. But anyway, no one answers the phone. The next morning, which was Saturday morning, I get up and I call driver lineup when they're supposed to be there. Nobody answers. So I walk over to the trailer shop, and I go in there. There's a bunch of people sitting around the office, a bunch of mechanics, and they are like, yeah, you're number 10 on the list for a roadworthy empty trailer. So I had a load to pick up in Idaho, but I was like, hey, there's no trailers. And, hours went by, and then they finally found me a trailer up at, and I think I might have mentioned this, up at Sam's Club in Layton, and I just took that trailer and went up to Chobani. But, hours after I talked to them, I get a call like, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Hey, we got a trailer if you still need one. I didn't. I was already, up in Idaho. So fast forward, this week, I bring a trailer in that I delivered at Costco yesterday in Salt Lake City. I bring a trailer in. It's had the light on. I had to drive from California with the light on. And I know what people are going to say, oh, well, Terry, you could just reset that by unplugging your 7-pin and, plugging it back in. It'll clear that. I'll get to that clearing the alarm stuff here in a second. So I go in and I say, hey, this trailer is no bueno. It needs to go in the shop, right? So then I call driver lineup, because then I got a pre-plan. Call driver lineup. I'm like, hey, I need a trailer, a roadworthy trailer. And they're like, okay. So they give me a trailer. I get it washed out. I inspect it, the whole 9 yards. I head out to go pick up in Springville last night because the load was ready at 1800. I get maybe 5 miles from the terminal. Like I don't even get to 215 and the ABS light comes on. So I get off at the next exit. I go back to the terminal and I'm like, hey, this trailer's ABS light is on. I didn't even make it anywhere, basically. So they're like, okay. So I drop the trailer, I go to this gal in the tractor shop, and I say, hey, I need a trailer. And she's like, okay, you're 4th on the list. So this morning, right, like I went to bed. I'm like, I figured somebody would call me if they had a good trailer for me. So this morning I hear my phone buzzing. It's dispatch asking me when I'm going to get to the 01, and I'm like, hey, maybe I'll get to the 01. I can give you an ETA once I get a good trailer. And they're like, oh, well, the trailer shop sent you a message at 02:15 that the trailer you had is now good to go. I'm like, really? Well, I think it's kind of stupid in the middle of the night to send a message to somebody instead of picking up the phone and calling them. I mean, if somebody, and if they could send a message to me, they can also know what my duty status is, which was sleeper berth. No one's sitting up in the middle of the night when they're logged into sleeper berth looking around like, oh, I'm just waiting for a message. That's not how things work. Okay? So I'm like, okay. So then they're like, oh, it's this trailer that you brought in last night. I'm like, oh, okay. So I go and get it. I don't really say this, but the whole time I'm thinking, I bet you $20 I get down the road a few miles and that light comes on again. So I just take the trailer, do my pre-trip on it, and I head through outbound. I was wrong. It wasn't a few miles. That light came back on 0.5 miles from the terminal. Like I didn't even get out of the neighborhood. So I go back and they're like, well, what's up? And I'm like, ABS light. So, and then this one dude in outbound was like, well, it's cleared now. I'm like, dude, let me tell you about alarms. okay? Just because it clears, it's like I had a fault with my reefer, you know, where the thing wouldn't turn on. I could clear that alarm until the next time that the reefer wanted to start. Clearing an alarm doesn't mean you fixed a problem. It just means that you turned the indicator of a problem off. Now, the problem might well be the alarm module, but it's still a problem. And, you know, just saying, oh, I'm going to get this light to quit, you know, I mean, I could go back there and clip the wire to it, you know, but that doesn't fix anything. And they have these and I told this guy in Inbound, I said, I've been at other companies with trailers that have anti-lock brakes. I've never, not even close, had this many ABS lights. I recall one or two times in the whole time I was at night having an ABS light. And usually they would quit after a little while, you know? And so I'm just like, I'm not going to take the hit for this. But I guarantee it, because they're like, oh, well, the signal was cleared. They took the trailer I brought back and I said, there's a problem with it. And all they did was the easiest thing. They didn't check any wiring. I guarantee you all they did, because I brought the trailer back at, say, I don't know, it was probably around 9-ish. You know, and all they did was, they were like, oh, well, the alarm's cleared. What do you want us to do? It's good to go. Well, of course, it wasn't good to go. And so finally, they assigned me the trailer that I took to drop. And by the way, I could have dropped any of these trailers. I could have just kept them and dropped them somewhere else and made them somebody else's problem. But I'm just, you know, I'm really getting, you know, when I went back last night, after I only made it like 5 miles, I was just I wasn't even angry. I was just kind of demoralized. I was just like, you know, why can't this be better? Like, who can't figure out that this is a problem? That this is causing drivers to have to alter their schedules. I mean, I did a video a while ago where I was just going crazy because I couldn't get a trailer that was loaded. I couldn't get literally like a 10-minute inspection done properly. And, you know, there's got to be some adults. There's got to be somebody in these shops that are holding people accountable. Now, I'll tell you right now, I think part of the problem is that the way Prime's system of paying mechanics is set up, that they can't really get and keep good people. And, you know, somebody that works at the Salt Lake terminal that's been there, he's been at Prime for quite a while. He and I chat quite a bit if I have to use his services. And, you know, he said, look, he said, I was at CR England in the maintenance department before I came here. And he goes, honestly, if I was a mechanic, I would go to CR England because they have guaranteed wages. Because if you're not familiar with how Prime does, Prime mechanics have a base salary of $12 an hour. $12 an hour. You can make more than that at McDonald's. Now, what they say is, oh, well, you can make a lot more because that's your base salary. But if you do 4 one-hour jobs in an hour, you will actually make like $36 that hour, so, you know, $48. I don't even know. So that's how we could say that you could make like $75,000 a year. Well, here's the problem with that system. If there's it causes people to rush through jobs. It causes people to do like they did last night with that trailer. They brought it in and they took like 5 minutes to make sure that alarm was cleared, then had it put back in the yard, right? They didn't do any troubleshooting. They didn't say, oh, why does this driver keep getting these alarms? So they did not even a half-ass job, because they're just cycling, right? They're salesmen. You know, they're moving on to the next sale. And I guarantee that these guys have what we used to call it when I was a commission salesperson, commission breath, right? Like, they only want to work on the trailers where they know that their work is going to be the most lucrative. That's why trailers sit around. Like, I saw trailers at Salt Lake City, they're red tagged, but they're running. You know, that's service failure right there, my friends. So let's talk about the other kind of service failure that you guys are more familiar with. So I just happened to get a message, or see a message from a fleet manager, and it's not a reefer fleet manager, it's one of the other divisions. And this fleet manager was talking about how they had several veteran, and that's the word they use, it's not my word, veteran drivers getting service failures for just like oversleeping and not, you know, allotting enough time to get to places and stuff. And they basically were like, you know, if you're not serious, you need to, like, we'll route you into Springfield so you can explain it to me. And that, by the way, is code for, yeah, we'll route you into Springfield and you ain't leaving in one of our trucks. You know, that I don't care. Like, nobody's going to be like, oh yeah, let's get 3 or 4 layers of the chain of command together so we can hear why this guy just slept in 14 hours and didn't get a load delivered on time. That, you know what the environment's like. They're going to show you the door, and you're not even going to get past your fleet manager. He's going to be like, hey, go turn your keys in or whatever, you know, pack your shit up in some boxes and we'll ship it home for you. So, you know, and I want to talk about this because I think a lot of drivers, because we're in our own little bubble, when actually our actions or our behaviors are impacting lots of people, okay? And, you know, no one's gonna know when they're that proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back. No one at Prime is gonna be like, hey, Joe Allen in truck, you know, 6'2", 4080 is the guy. He was the last guy to service fail at Tyson before Tyson cut our shipments by 50%. No one's gonna pin that on Joe Allen. I'm making that name up. Really, the dude's name is Bob Allen. Now, no one's gonna pin that on one person, right? But it is, but somebody is going to be the last guy or gal to fuck it up, okay? And here's the thing, when you service fail, you don't know if you're that person. And I personally, I shouldn't have said that, I apologize. I wouldn't want to be the last person, but I don't even want to be a guy that contributed to it. I don't even want to be the guy that was the 50th guy from the last person, because it takes a village, right? It is a team effort. And, you know, I point out the flaws and, you know, missteps and unprofessionalism of people inside the company all the time, as I just did with the trailer shop in Salt Lake. But service failure is 99.9% on drivers. If you get a dispatch, before you say yes to that, you have to ask yourself, can I get this done? You know, and I took a dispatch the other day that it was closer than it should have been, and my fleet manager was worried about it. And all's well that ends well, right? But truthfully, as I rewind the film, I'm like, oh dang, I was sitting at a truck stop because I was comfortable there, and it was a Love's, and it was a newer Love's. But really, I should have gone from I was in Patterson, California, by the way. I should have gone to Salinas. Not because I would have gotten loaded any earlier, because I was there the second they opened, and I got loaded pretty quickly. But what it would have done is it would have given me a little more time on my day. Because really, I ended up, after I picked up in Oxnard, I ended up stopping. I mean, it was late. I kind of wanted to get off the road, but I actually stopped because my 14-hour clock ran out, even though I had, split my clock a little bit. But, there shouldn't be any excuse for service failure other than something that you don't have any control over. And even like a flat tire. In most parts of the country, Prime gets somebody out on road service like pretty quickly. I've been shocked at how fast it happens sometimes. Like one time I was in Missouri and I had a flat on a trailer, and I mean, this dude was there in less than 30 minutes. And it wasn't far from a Love's, but it was still shockingly fast. But even that, right, I should still have planned enough time for traffic, an accident happens, backs things up, I have a mechanical problem. Now, if you sit waiting at a shop for 12 hours, which has happened, then they know going into it that you're kind of at this shop, and you'll let them know when you're getting back on the road, and they can make the call on whether or not you need to get repowered, or they need to push the time back, or whatever it is. But just showing up late, like I've seen this twice when I was at other companies. I went to a place, the first time was in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I go to this place, I back into the door, I showed up like 45 minutes early. I back into the door, and I'm not joking, this truck pulls up, shortly after I backed in. And then this gal comes out from the office who I recognize, and she's kind of sheepish, but she's like, hey, so this truck over here, he was supposed to be here yesterday, but we really need to get him unloaded because we need that stuff, before we need the stuff on your truck. Would you mind pulling out? And so, what am I going to say? No. So I pulled out, and I waited for them to unload him. Then I went back in the dock. I just sat there on the street. And another time I was in Colorado, and I pulled up, and I basically pulled up at the same time as this other guy. But the other dude, like when I went and talked to the guy inside, who was, like I was wearing an Iowa t-shirt. He's from Iowa. And so we hit it off, but he's like, yeah, this dude right here, he was supposed to be here yesterday and said he couldn't find us, So, I don't ever want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. But I recently delivered in Los Angeles. I had a 0700 appointment. I showed up at like 5:30 in the morning. I got unloaded, and I was pulling out a little bit after, like around 8:25. And this was a small place. They inventoried everything. They were very thorough. They didn't, and like I said, small, almost mom and pop distributor. And this other, right as I'm pulling out, this other Prime truck pulls up, and I get out of my truck, and I say to the guy, hey, do you want me to move so you can park there before you check in? And I don't even know how it came up, but he mentioned that he was supposed to be there at 8 o'clock. Well, it was already like 8:25. I'm like, and I'm sure that they didn't care, and I'm sure they didn't say anything to JBS, but why take the chance, right? And, I don't even want to hear, like, I don't know why he was late. I didn't ask. It's not my business really, but it worries me that people are, especially in this environment, are not serious enough about this to just like put in every bit of effort they can to make it on time. You know, and the guy that was 25 or 30 minutes late in Los Angeles, I'm sure nothing came of it, because these were nice guys. They were cool. It was, like I said, it was a small shop, small mom and pop distributor. But why risk it? You know you got to deliver in Los Angeles. Like, figure it out. Get your schedule set up where, you know, like I was like, okay, I got to be going down Cajon Pass by 4 a.m. because I got to go all the way into LA by, 7. Well, it turned out traffic was nothing, and I already knew what freeways I was going to use, but it's just not okay. And when you service fail, you're jeopardizing a lot of people's jobs. First of all, your own, but that's your problem. But you're also jeopardizing other people's jobs and income. So, you know, if this is hitting home for you, figure it out, fix it, right? Talk to your fleet manager even. Say, hey, look, I'm not sure I can make this, but you got to tell people as soon as you think there's a problem. And every night when I stop, I go back in and reconfirm when I'm supposed to be somewhere and how many miles I got left on the trip, how many drive shifts I need. I do that calculation constantly, right? I look at, if I'm starting to recap, I look at how many hours I got coming back. Okay, well, I'm only getting 4 hours back that way, but, that day, but I'll have 3 left over from the day before, whatever it is, right? There's a whole bunch of little things that go into being successful at delivering, and you're only as good as your last load. So I don't know what happened to these people in this other division, and by the way, don't think that because you're in tanker that you couldn't screw up things for reefer, or because you're in reefer you couldn't screw up things for flatbed or for intermodal, right? Like, people don't differentiate, right? All they care about is it's prime, right? You could show up with your tires on fire, your truck all trashed, your grill caved in. They don't give a crap. As long as their load isn't damaged and you got there on time, they're good with you. They don't care if you ran over a bunch, curbs and you got corn stalks sticking out of the grill. They don't give a crap. All they care about is you got their stuff's in one piece, right? How you got it there, it could be like, any number of movies, right? But that's all they care about, is they want their stuff and they want it in one piece and on time. And really, that's our job, right? We pick things up and we drop them off on time, undamaged. That's it. On time, undamaged, at the right location. Yeah, don't be that guy. I couldn't find you. Right? Every place is findable. So anyway, thanks for listening to my rant. Let's work together to protect our income streams. And be safe out there, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.